Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri vara dhārī.
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 Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
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 Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri vara dhārī.
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 Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
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 Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri dhārī
Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri dhārī
Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha girivara dhārī.
Jaya gopi jana vallabha girivara dhārī.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
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 Yaśodā
Nandana braja jana rañjana. Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Bolo.
Jaya Radha Madhava.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava.
Jai.
Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for singing with us.
Welcome, willkommen
Yes.
y bienvenidos.
Guten Morgen. Thank you everybody as well for joining us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. If you'd like to join us on Zoom, please email us at krishnakirtanmusic@gmail.com or go to krishnakirtanmusic.com and you'll find the email right there.
Find all sorts of links there.
Yes.
So this particular song tonight, it's so sweet, it's so complete. And the reason why we are singing this song today is because this past week, there's always something happening on the spiritual calendar.
There's
right?
always a celebration.
There's always a celebration. I think I'm in Nietzsche's camp. I like a God that sings and dances and celebrates. So hence my path of choice. It's sort of the sugar religion. So this past week was included actually multiple celebrations. But one in particular is somebody who is really dear to my heart. His name is Srila Bhaktivinode Thakur. And he was a wonderful bhakti yogi in the 19th century. So he was born in the 1830s in West Bengal, or in Bengal. And it was a very, at that time it wasn't known as West Bengal, it was just Bengal. And it was a very interesting time in India because they were under British colonization at the time. But it also came after a real spiritual renaissance in the, the 16th century, and then the 17th century and the 18th, the 19th. There was this groundswell of a bhakti faith, and especially at that time, perhaps it wasn't as strong. It needed a boost, but very much in Bengal, one of the faiths was the Kirtan tradition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his name was Kedarnath when he was born, and he was born into a fairly well-to-do family. But then his father died quite young, and then the family kind of experienced quite a bit of poverty. But he was taken under the wing of his uncle, and his uncle was a great scholar and spoke English, and so he taught Kedarnath English. And Kedarnath went on to become a teacher and then went on to become a headmaster and went on to become a magistrate judge in Bengal. So, as far as careers go, he was sort of very much in the workforce, and he was a very respected figure in the community. But he also had an extremely spiritual side, which he integrated somewhat seamlessly into his daily life. He didn't, renounce everything and go join a monastery. He was very much day-to-day living in society and practicing his bhakti faith, which is really inspiring for me personally, and hopefully for you too, and you guys too. And he wrote a lot of books. He was multilingual. He spoke English, Bengali, Sanskrit, Urdu. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of languages he spoke, but he spoke a lot of different languages, and he wrote in different languages, and he was a very prolific writer. He also pioneered the Namahata program, where every house can become a place of Sangha, in Kirtan. So instead of there being like one main temple where everybody goes to, there are multiple houses everywhere just where people get together for Sangha and Kirtan. And so he very much propagated that. And he also championed English education, which was very progressive of him. He understood that English was part of the landscape, and that if, you were going to be sort of, a mover and shaker in material circles, you also had to be quite erudite in English as well. And he became the manager of the Jagannath temple in Puri, and he established daily worship there. And he also established Bhagavatam classes daily in the courtyard. So there's so much that he did. And then also, if that wasn't enough, one of his 10 children would go on to become the spiritual teacher of my grandfather, Guru. And so his name was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was also a great scholar and a huge leader in the Kirtan movement, in the Bhakti Kirtan movement. So we have so many great saints and sadhus to thank for what today seems so natural, which is to, just go online and see all these ecstatic kirtans everywhere, So there is a connection here. This last week, actually a couple of days ago, was also Ratha Yatra in Puri for the Smiling Trio. I have conflicting feelings about that, because it was reduced only to be in Puri because India is suffering a terrible, the Delta plus outbreak. So, but I guess when your faith is super strong, nothing can stop you. So they had a Ratha Yatra. So we thought we have to acknowledge Jagannath today, and
the Smiling Trio.
Hope he had a wonderful festival a couple of days ago.
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev,
and we
and
pray
Jaya
for
Subhadra.
the health of everybody in India.
Yes.
So Bhaktivinode Thakur adored Jagannath, and also he was an avid reader of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he passed away, or rather he entered samadhi, or eternal nitya, eternal bliss, nitya ananda, in the early 1900s, and left an incredible legacy for us. So it was his disappearance, but he not only wrote so many books, but he also wrote some beautiful songs. And we're so lucky that we have these songs. And one of them is Jaya, Radha Madhava, and we sang that today. We also tacked on the Maha Mantra because it's a very short mantra, and so we just definitely wanted to keep the sweetness and not too repetitive. But this particular song was also a great favorite of my Param Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and in fact he created a tradition of singing this song prior to Bhagavatam classes that I think exists to this day. Or not I think, I know it does. And what I love about this song is that Prabhupada said that this song is really special because it is a snapshot of the spiritual world. He's like, everybody's there. So we have Radha, the goddess of love, and we have Madhava. So Madhava is a name that is a derivative of madhu, and madhu is honey. So it's like the God who is sweet like honey. So this is not God when he's angry. This is God when he's super sweet, And Jaya Radha, or Jaya, of course, all glories to Radha Madhava, so the goddess of love and the God of love. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. So last week we talked about Banki Bihari. Govinda mero hai, Gopala mero hai, Sri Banki Bihari. So Kunja Bihari. So Bihari is the enjoyer, the supreme enjoyer, right? But Kunja Bihari, the one who enjoys in the kunjas. So a kunj is like a forest, but forest is also vana, right? So kunja is like the bushes or the thicket, the groves. So this is painting this picture of the God of love and the goddess of love playing, having their playful pastimes in this exquisite forest. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya jana vallabha.
So reminder, Jaya. It's a victory. It's a ahua.
Jana is like people. So gopi jana are the gopis. And gopi jana vallabha. So vallabha is like, he's the favorite. So he's the lover. It has multiple meanings: favorite, lover, dear one. So he is Gopi Jana Vallabha. He's very dear to the gopis. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vari. He's also the one who lifted the Giri Govardhan hill. So this is an at the time 7-year-old boy who is displaying the most wondrous symptoms. So at some point, the residents of Braj stopped worshipping Indra, and Indra is a great demigod. It's actually considered the demigod of heaven. So heaven is not really an eternal place in Vedic philosophy. And hell's not an eternal place. It just feels that way. So heaven and hell are both karmic. They're destinations based on material karma, and you go and you burn off that karma, so you don't have to stay in hell forever. And in heaven, you also don't get to stay in the heavenly realm forever either. And that's why Earth is special, because it's Mrityaloka. It's the middle planet. It's just enough pleasure to be tolerable, and there's just enough pain to kick your butt to get you on a spiritual path. So it's really conducive to pursuing a spiritual path. So, but Indra you shouldn't be disrespected. Indra is a great demigod. And, but the residents of Braj stopped doing Indra Mahayagya. They stopped doing this jagya, this worship to Indra, and Indra got really mad. And so he gathered these really kind of catastrophic clouds and started just pouring on the residents of Braj. And they were so frightened, and they cried out to Krishna, help us, help us. They don't really know who he is. They just know he's super special. And for some reason, this 7-year-old boy can protect them. They're unaware that he's God. They're so covered with love, with this salve of love, that they forget that he's God. And he likes it that way because he wants that intimate connection, And so just to show Indra that it ain't no thing, he picked up Govardhan and he put it on his weakest appendage. So he lifted it with his little finger. So he's Girivaradhari. Yaśodā Nandana, he's the beloved child of Yaśodā. So it's acknowledging his mother. Yaśodā Nandana, braja, jana, rañjana. So braja jana, again, the people of Braj, so the people of this spiritual realm, rañjana, he delights in them and they delight in him. Rañjana, this is the delighter. Yamuna tīra. So the Yamuna is this river, and tīra is land, vana is forest, cārī is wandering or living. So brahmachari is like you're living as Brahma, right? Yamuna tīra vanachari. So he has these pastimes on the banks of the Yamuna River, in the vana, in the forest of Vrindavan. So if we kind of step back a bit and look at this, we're not discussing Dwarka Leela. We're not discussing the time of Bhagavad Gita, the battlefield and all that. We're discussing this very simple time in Vrindavan where he's just a little boy.
Very sweet.
And so it's the sweetness. And so they say when God comes down to this earthly plane, he and she bring all their posse with them. So Krishna wants to be adored in a God wants to be in a mood where someone's taking care of him. So he has the highest yogis, the bhakti yogis that have just their hearts are so devoted. They get the role of mother and father. And even when he wants to wrestle, and we talk about demons, there was Hiranyakashipu, but if you go back in the history, Hiranyakashipu is a great devotee, so he also gets his dearest beloveds to play act as demons just so he can have fun. So just think about God rustling around and getting roughed up and, wrestled by his friends, getting bitten by his, girlfriend. And, so think of absolute love bereft of any awe and reverence. And that's what Jaya Radha Madhava is. And that's why it's so sweet, because if we meditate on the words, don't just rattle them off like, Kunja Bihari, yeah, whatever. And don't get me wrong, I find it difficult to always concentrate on the words, but if we teach our mind to bring it back, did the finger make a mistake? Doesn't matter, bring it back. What are the words? What's the pastime? Because the goal here is to meditate on the pastime so that hopefully one day we can get a role in this production, in this spiritual production. Because think about it, and I always like to think of it for myself. What if I was God? What is my highest expression as an individual? Is it when I'm at work or doing my taxes? That's not my highest expression. My highest expression of who I am is when I'm hanging out with my friends and when I'm just in my flow. And so this is not to negate Vishnu or Brahma or anything like this. What I'm just saying is there's a special sweetness that comes when God is just hanging out with his friends. And so that's the mood of Jaya Radha Madhava and the desire to enter into that mood as well.
Very sweet.
And that's the sweetness of Bhaktivinode Thakur. And I really encourage you to Google him and look up all his other ecstatic songs. What a talented person.
And you can just write his name is on the screen.
So he was given this title, Bhaktivinode Thakur. Thakur is kind of a respectful kind of term, Thakurji. And Bhakti, of course, is a devotion, and Vinod means joyful. So, this name, he's a very highly respected, devoted and joyful bhakti yogi, and who really navigated just being a regular person in the material world, but also simultaneously was an ecstatic bhakti yogi.
Yes.
So also, I didn't go into the rag here because there's different schools of thought that say what this rag is. I've heard Dabari Kannada, I've heard Asawari. I respectfully disagree. I think it's Kafi. It might be Mishra Pilu. I a little disagree on that too. That being said, there are slightly different melodies out there. So some of the other ones may be more properly those rags, but I think this one is kafi, but I'm not going to go too much into it because it's better we just meditate on Bhaktivinode Thakur and the mood of Vrindavan.
Yes, and so you can follow. The mantra is on the description of the video, and I'm also going to put it on the screen.
So with this, Prabhupada, my Param Guru, he really, he was quite, when he really impressed that this song contains everything for the spiritual world. And so we can also go to the texts of like Krishna book and stuff, and we can elaborate on these pastimes that are just mentioned in this song. So we can also go to texts as well. So I love a sandwich that's full of like, so we've got the books, we've got the music, and some of you might need more books, less music. I need more music, less books, because I'm not so smart. You know what I mean? So we all have our different combination of what works for us. But it's nice to also have a little bit of everything in your spiritual portfolio. So with all this mood, what are you going to meditate on in this song?
I'm really thinking on the Yamuna River. I really feel that vibe.
Yes, I agree. I love the Yamuna as well. And just thinking of the way it meanders. And
Yes.
it's ever-changing. Yamuna, tīra, vana, cārī. And I just think about, imagine God like playing the flute along this riverbank. And on the one hand, you're like, oh, that's really out there. But on the other hand, what else is God meant to do if it's not hang around and play flute? Like, I don't want my God going to work every day, you know. So I love the idea of God being at play, because when we think about heaven, oh, we're all going to go to heaven. Well, how old am I in heaven? And who's going? Is my first dog going, the one that died, or is it the dog that I've got now? Like, who's exactly going to heaven? So it's really nice to have a picture of the spiritual world where God is forever youthful and has all his friends with him, and it's sweet. It's a nice meditation. God at play. So with this in mind, let's meditate on that part of Radha Madhava and imagine ourselves helping the spiritual pastimes. Srila Bhaktivinode ki jaya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri vara dhārī.
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 Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
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 Yamuna tīra vana cārī.
Yamuna tīra
Yamuna tīra vanacārī.
Yamuna tīra vanacārī.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Jana vallabha giri vara dhārī.
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 Yaśodā nandana braja jana rañjana.
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 Yamuna tīra vanacārī.
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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, 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 Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari,
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 Jaya Radha Madhava, bolo.
Jaya Radha Madhava,
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava ki jai. Bhaktivinode Thakur ki,
Jai,
Sri Gadadhar Pandit ki,
Jai,
Rath Yatra ki,
Jai, Jaya Jagannath Ki, Jai, Jaya Subhadra,
ki jai,
Jai, and Jaya Baladev,
jai.
Jai.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for your lovely comments. Thank you for joining us in person here on Zoom. Once again, if you'd like to
Yes.
join us on Zoom, let me give you the email so you can email us. It's krishnakirtanmusic@gmail.com.
And it's really lovely because we get to see you, and perhaps contrary to popular belief, we like to see you. So we love
Yes.
to see your smiling faces, we love to see you singing along, and we get to stay afterwards and either just get to know each other, but we also go over the ragas or the pastimes, and it's just a general Kirtan family catch-up, but we don't stream your feed because it's a private sacred space.
Yes, and once again, just email us with your first and last name at krishnakirtanmusic@gmail.com.
But if all that's too hard to remember, we have lots of links at krishnakirtanmusic.com. There you're going to find links to our YouTube channel, downloadable music, sites like Patreon, how to support and be part of the Kirtan family. So it's kind of one-stop shopping at krishnakirtanmusic.com.
Yes, and you can also find right there the YouTube link, so you can listen to all of our recordings and make your own playlist. So once again, for you on Zoom, please stick around on Zoom. And for those of you on YouTube, I want to give a shout out to Chris in Mexico. I want to give a shout out to...
It's late in Mexico.
Very late in Mexico. Also give a shout out to Dheeraj Sharma. And also to our friend, a very special friend in Germany.
Yes. And a special thank you to our patrons. We really value you.
Thank you. And for those of you on Instagram, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the communities. We love singing with you. Please set up your Kirtan alarm for 7 p.m. Sydney, Australia time, and 7 p.m. Los Angeles time.
Two different dates.
Every Wednesday. 7 p.m. at night, okay? So set up your Kirtan alarm. Love to sing with you, and please email us once again at krishnakirtanmusic@gmail.com.
No, that's not it at all. It's not at Krishna Kirtan. You know what he means.
Yes.
Actually, you did say it right. Just happens to have at there.
That's true.
Oh,
Haribol, we are signing off from YouTube, Facebook,
and we just have to grow our arms long enough to. And we know that we're sideways on Insta. The thing is, the room is so tiny we can't get enough depth.
And we are two, not one.
Yes.
All right, Haribol, Radhe. See you next